Welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Saphire, an attorney in Massachusetts.
And I'm Camille Barron, an insurance and financial advocate, also in Massachusetts. And today I'm very happy to introduce someone who's here for the very first time. His name is Peter Raskin, and he's a financial advisor here in Massachusetts.
Yes, and he has an excellent reputation, and I think we're centering about women today. Is
yes.
that right? Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Tell us
having
a
me.
little about
Thank
yourself.
you.
Well, I've lived in Sharon for over 30 years, and what I do is really provide advice and counsel to clients, really helping them with clarity around their financial situation, helping them feel that they're in control of their financial circumstance, and then really giving them confidence that they can meet their objectives, whatever they might be. And the way we do that is really through planning. It's the process of planning, understanding what they're all about, when they want it, how they want it, and we put together a detailed, comprehensive plan. And we think that's the most important thing that people can do, is to plan and think ahead what they want and how to get there.
Are you talking, I just want to make sure, you're talking retirement, but you're not talking just stocks. Are you talking just stocks, or are we talking just when you say an overall plan?
So in order to help people meet those objectives, whatever they might be, maybe it's retirement planning, maybe it's providing education for their kids or grandkids, estate planning, cash flow planning, income and expenses, whatever that might be, and it might be investments as well. But our feeling is it's very difficult to have an investment plan and implement that plan unless you know what the larger objectives of the client are. So we focus first on the planning piece. What do they want? When do they want it? And how do they want it? And then we help them implement that plan, whether it's around estate planning documents, whether that's around insurance, whether that's around investments. It depends upon their circumstance and what they're looking for.
So overall, so they just don't call you up and say, buy me 10 shares of this or that. They have to find their overall needs and things and what their concerns are.
Exactly. Matter of fact, we don't make specific stock and bond recommendations. We're focused really on the overall planning.
That's great. That's excellent.
That's good.
So today we thought we would talk a little bit about women and retirement planning, because there's been some interesting studies during the past year or so that say women and men may not be equally footed when it comes to retirement planning. I know that you shared a couple of those with me on LinkedIn. Wondering if you might have a few things that you could share with our audience.
Sure. I think it's fascinating. I think both men and women have questions, have concerns about their financial situation, especially around retirement. That tends to be what most of our clients are primarily concerned about. And both men and women have those issues. But what we've seen, what studies tell us, is that, well, women are also concerned about retirement. They tend to really be more concerned about the day-to-day management of their financial world and not about their long-term planning. Women tend to be less prepared for retirement than men. And so there's a real difference between how men approach it and how women approach it. They both have, ultimately there's the same issue. Everyone wants to get to retirement and be successful in retirement. But I think women, for a variety of reasons, are underprepared for that.
That's interesting that this is the topic for today, because there's more and more going on about women don't know finances. They don't know how to write a checkbook. That when they start out as girls, it's like they're bypassed and they're not taught financial responsibility and the questions that they should ask. Like, you probably would know people by they're not asking the right questions, and probably men ask more of the right questions than women. Is that what's happening?
Sometimes men and you may have experienced this in your relationships, we may not ask as many questions as we should. And so I find women actually do ask a lot of questions. Yeah. Sometimes there's a lack of confidence in those questions.
Do they know what they're asking?
No, not always, but either do men.
Oh.
So I think it's not that they're not interested and curious. I think they may feel less confident in their abilities, not because they can't, but they may not have the interest. I think some of it's generational. I think historically, men have been kind of the money people around the house, the bigger picture. Women sometimes in families will be managing the day-to-day, the budgetary issues. But so they're both of interest, but I think women tend to be focusing on the day-to-day more than the bigger picture in a relationship.
Sure. It was interesting, one of the points I took from that study, it said, and this was just less than a year ago, that 60% of men ranked saving for retirement as their top financial priority compared to 44% of women.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty significant difference.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to that kind of women are more focused on the day-to-day
exactly. Yes.
Than men.
And it also said for some women whose more pressing concerns include meeting daily living costs, 64%, or paying off debt, 57%. So they may have the desire to save, but they may not have the financial resources to save.
Yeah.
And that is a whole other issue. And maybe because of earnings not being equal, there's a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah, I think about, there are a lot of reasons. I think one of them is from just an interest perspective, or that there's just not as much literacy around financial issues around women. It's kind of like there are more men, I think, interested in sports. And I think in the same way that there are more men interested in financial literacy than women. That doesn't mean that there aren't many women that are.
But that's the other term that's coming up all the time, financial literacy.
Yeah.
Because there's groups now aiming that they're saying, I'm doing this, that the girls and women are not concentrated on and learning about financial literacy, and they're trying to start groups. Well, we know that one, they're trying to start it at a young age just for the girls.
Yeah. I think it's vital, because they're as capable as boys and men. So it's,
probably more so, but
yeah,
my son watches this, he'd kill me. He doesn't like when I say things like that.
But the generational thing is a true point too. We were part of the very first financial reality fair here in Sharon at the high school. And that was very interesting to see.
We were actually one of the top 3 moving reasons why it got here.
Yeah.
Actually, in 2011, we did a live at the library on financial literacy, a whole panel when they weren't doing that. But, I had a question. Somebody said to me, ask this. What's the difference between a CD and a fixed annuity? Now, to me, a CD, you play the CD, but I know that's not what they meant.
Well, a certificate of deposit is a bank designed product. So you would purchase a certificate of a deposit at a bank, and the bank promises to pay a certain amount of interest to the buyer of that CD over a certain period of time. An annuity, a fixed annuity, is a contract with an insurance company. And just like a CD, the insurance company will promise a certain interest over a certain period of time. One difference is the interest that accumulates inside this annuity contract is tax deferred, meaning you don't pay current income taxes on your earnings like you do with a CD. With a CD, you buy it today, you earn interest during the year. At the end of the year, you will receive a 1099, which you have to pay taxes on.
Now, if they get it as a Roth IRA, then the taxes wouldn't be deferred because they already have paid the
That's right,
taxes.
yes.
Right.
Well, we knew that. We just wanted to see if you knew that too. But yep, check him off. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, now, here's another thing that you and I have talked about, Peter, and that is longevity. It's a whole different world today than it was a generation ago. What is, what is the life expectancy now? Do you know of men versus women?
Well, I was just looking at a study. This is done by the Social Security Administration. And in 2016, the life expectancy of a woman, according to the Social Security Administration, there's lots of tables, and some of them may be different than this, but was 85.7 years.
Really?
For a woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
A 65-year-old woman
Okay.
has a life expectancy of 85.7.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
Gee, I thought it would be much more than that.
well, what's interesting about life expectancy, if you understand what that really means, that means that if you're age 65, or if you've got a group of women who are age 65, how many of them will still be alive at 85.7, at age 85.7? 50% would still be alive, but 50% would be deceased.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't mean that that's when you are expected to pass. It just means that of a group of 65-year-olds.
So that's the median life expectancy,
That's the
right?
median life
Yeah.
expectancy.
And how about men? I would think that
Men,
would be less.
It is less. It's 83.2 years. Now these gaps are narrowing.
Yeah.
Back in 1990, there was a greater difference between life expectancy. Men, actually, their life expectancy has increased
Really?
a bit more than women have.
I wonder why.
I'm not sure.
I guess you can't
Well,
always
that's like-
say what the reasons are.
Can
but-
I tell him this?
Yeah, you can tell.
Okay. Do you know why men die before women? Because they want to. Anyway. So no, I couldn't help it.
So,
That's
yeah,
interesting,
so there's
though.
about
That's
a
interesting.
median life expectancy for a woman, 20 years from the age of 65,
Yes.
right? So that means when it comes to planning retirement, they should be thinking well over 20 years, that they'll be around for well over 20 years. There's like maybe 50% chance that they will, right?
Exactly. So I think that's actually our biggest risk, both men and women.
I hear people say that they're living longer than they thought they would, and that's why they ran out of money.
That's
So
exactly right.
what you have to do is you probably have to re-educate people to start with.
We do. We really talk about their expected mortality. We talk about their health. We talk about their family experience. And so there's a really, when we're doing planning, we want to plan conservatively, and we assume a very long life expectancy in our planning, and then make adjustments as time goes on. But we think it's really important to think long term. And if you think about what the real issue is, if you've got $100,000 and you need to spread that out over 10 years, well, that's $10,000 a year. If you need to spread that over 20 years, that's just $5,000. And if we need to spread it out over a longer period, that means you just get less per year. Now, assuming your money's invested in earning income, that's fine, but nevertheless, most people are spending down their assets over time.
Now, how does this impact what you advise clients to do when it comes to Social Security and when to start taking Social Security benefits?
Well, that's a great question, and I think one of the biggest issues, especially for women. So when we're working with a couple or a woman, we're talking to them about their life expectancy. The longer you defer taking Social Security, the greater your Social Security benefits are. So while you can start taking it at age 62, your full retirement age, where you get 100% of your benefit, would probably be somewhere between 66 and 67. If you're born after 1960, your full retirement age is 67. So the longer you defer, the greater your benefit will be. you can defer up to age 70, and that would maximize your Social Security benefit. Matter of fact, from your full retirement age to age 70, your benefits would increase by 8% per year. And if we're planning for longevity, if that's our big risk, then we want to consider taking the Social Security benefit at a later age so that that benefit would continue.
I have a question. It's always bothered me. You know, you go to work, you get the Social Security, but then you have people who work for the government, any phase of the government, and they don't do Social Security. They do whatever it's called, the private thing. How do those people do it? I mean, they don't get Social Security benefits at all?
Well, it depends. If they have
they have pensions or whatever.
Yeah, if you're a federal or government employee or in military and you've received benefits through that entity or through that organization, you may not have qualified for Social Security. So you have to have a certain amount of quarters worked in the Social Security system to qualify. So assuming you've not qualified, you're not going to get Social Security system benefits because you've never paid into that. You'll be part of the government's
So you have to pay
pension.
into it.
So you've got to pay into it a minimum amount in order to qualify for Social Security benefits. If you do qualify, then there's an offset between the pension, the government's pension, and your Social Security benefits. Your Social Security benefit would likely be reduced if you're getting a significant...
Those pensions there, do they pay into them, or is that just a gift?
Yeah, no, they often pay into them, yes.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Just like you pay into Social Security.
It didn't seem right. You think that they should all do Social Security. You know, it's good for the goose is good for the gander, or something like that, right?
Well, some of the government pensions are actually richer than Social Security. So
yeah, because they're spending our money.
Yeah, that's right. But I think if possible, and it's not always possible, everyone's financial circumstance is different. But when we're doing planning, we're looking at our clients' circumstance and say, is it possible to defer taking Social Security until you get the maximum benefit? It may not be, or their health may be such that it may not be as good a bet. Maybe you should take it early because your health is diminished and your life expectancy might be reduced. So it really depends upon your life expectancy and your cash flow planning. Your living.
But what about
sorry, go ahead.
say a woman is married and she could qualify for half of her husband's Social Security, and she could be deferring hers till a later date, right?
Yep.
So it might be a good idea for a woman to do that.
It might be, but Social Security has changed that over the last couple of years.
Oh, they have?
What do you mean half? You mean he's not getting it, so you're getting it instead? Or
No.
you both can get it?
He might be getting his full benefit, but his wife, I think she has to be 62, right, to be able to do that?
To really get the full benefit, it's the
66
or the full retirement age.
Yeah. Okay. So she could collect up to half of the amount that he gets
Instead of going on her own?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Well, what are they changing about it?
So previously, there was a strategy where the higher earning spouse could continue to defer taking Social Security benefits, qualify for the age 70 benefit. So instead of taking it at age 66, for example, the spouse, the higher earning spouse, would continue to defer and earn and generate a Social Security benefit of 8% more per year. The spouse, who let's assume she was also eligible for full retirement age, could take the spousal benefit. The spousal benefit is typically half what the higher earning spouse's benefit
Instead
is.
of taking her own?
Because that might be higher.
Oh, it might be higher.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I've never heard of that before.
It may be lower, but it might be higher. And so that was an old strategy. Now, the spouse is no longer able to defer and take the spousal benefit. They both have to take the benefit.
Speaking
Really?
of what's
Oh.
better, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
It is. We thought it was a different word, but you said laddering. I never heard the word laddering before. We had mentioned it earlier. What is laddering? Is that a good investment? Is that anything to do with?
Are you talking about laddering CDs or bonds?
Yeah, LADD, like a ladder.
Like a ladder.
Yeah.
So the idea there, when you're laddering a portfolio of, we call it fixed income instruments, like CDs, treasuries, corporate bonds, municipal bonds, is you would buy bonds or CDs with different maturities. So if you've got, for example, $100,000 to invest, and you wanted to ladder CDs, you could buy one CD with a 1-year maturity for $10,000. And your second CD would be a 2-year CD. It would mature in 2 years.
With the same bank?
Could be same bank or different banks.
Oh.
It doesn't really matter. The third $10,000 would be a 3-year maturity CD, 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, up to 10 years.
I never heard of that. That's fascinating.
And then every year you will have a CD mature,
Oh,
and then it would then invest in a 10-year CD. So you will always have 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, 10-year CDs mature.
do people do that?
Yes.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and the advantage of that is that your longer term maturities typically pay a higher interest rate.
Oh.
But we never know what's going to happen with interest rates. So interest rates go up and down. If right now we're in a fairly low interest rate environment, interest rates are probably going to go up. We've been saying that for a long, long time, but probably will increase over time. So we want to take advantage of that. So next year's CD, as it matures, we're buying a 10-year CD with hopefully a higher interest rate. And then you're just able to level off your income stream.
It's fascinating.
Is that the same as averaging when you invest?
Dollar cost averaging?
Dollar cost. Is that the same idea?
No. It's similar in the way that you're averaging different interest rates or different returns, but dollar cost averaging is a strategy where you're systematically buying a basket of typically stocks or a mutual fund, and each month or each quarter or each year, you're systematically buying it at different prices, and therefore you're coming into the market at neither a high nor a low because you're systematically doing it, and on average, you're going to reduce the risk
Sounds
of
like
buying
a good
high.
plan.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable thing to do.
Now we have quite a question here, and
Is that a you've got to be kidding question?
Yeah, we can call it.
Can we call it? Because here we've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding.
See,
You
YG
say you've
TV.
got to be kidding.
This is the YGTVK, You've Got to Be Kidding bag, okay? And can you answer this question? Do women still spend most of their lives married?
It's a great question.
Isn't that a great question?
And the answer is that
That's fascinating too.
there was a recent study.
I've got it right here.
Yeah,
the study.
I was nice.
Yeah, it was produced by the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, and generationally,
boy.
the previous generations were married for a longer period of time. Women were mostly married for about 70% of their life.
Except their lives were less.
Their lives were less. That's true, but not that dramatically.
Really?
But 70%, approximately 70% of the time they were married during their lifetime. In today's world, for a variety of reasons, the average woman is married for only 50% of her life.
Wow. Adult life.
Their adult life,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yes, their adult life.
Well, you know, along those lines, I mean, you've got to be kidding too. Like last year and the year before, we have we manage rental properties, and there was was like a whole, there was about 6 or 7 apartments opened up, and they were all filled by people that were married 20 years, between 18 and 21 years, and got a divorce. I never saw so many people.
Well, that's one of the reasons why the length of time people that women are married is less, because women are people are marrying later in life. There's more divorce than there used to be.
Yeah.
And women are living longer. So you've got those 3 factors playing into that. And I think that speaks to one of the big issues that women have from a retirement planning standpoint.
Right.
Is if there's wage discrepancy between men and women.
Yeah.
That's kind of a fact of this world today, unfortunately. So women are earning less on average, and so they're a little bit further behind from a retirement planning perspective, because they're able to save less. They've got.
That's interesting.
And so, and if they're not married, they don't have the second income for a long period of time as well. So it's a real challenge for a lot of women.
Let's end on a very positive note. What can women or even men do now to improve their prospects in retirement?
Well, we think the planning ahead, thinking about where you are right now, looking at the future about where you want to go, and working out a plan, a systematic plan to do that. Now, we like to work with clients that where cash flow isn't an issue, where there's lots of income and there's lots of assets. But that's not the world that we live in. There are many people that really struggle financially. It's difficult in this very expensive area of the world we live in.
So how do they plan?
Well,
they say, "You've got to be kidding. We can't plan." What do you mean plan?
Well, it's really one of managing their situation. So managing their debt is a big issue. Making sure that you're living within your means. I mean, the standard things. Don't spend more than you earn.
I always said that.
And it's easy to say. We say it all the time. But it's harder to implement in the world that we live in today, especially in...
with the charge cards, and you get the charge cards in the mail. You don't even have to apply for them.
Yeah, we live in a very expensive part of the world, and it's hard for a lot of people. But managing debt is a real big issue for a lot of people.
So
and then making wise choices.
Do you help people do that, manage their debt? Is that another...
We tend not to focus on that with our clients. Our clients tend not to have that as a primary issue, but it is something we're talking to all our clients about. Sometimes we do see clients that have credit card debt and large mortgages larger than they should have, and we help them kind of talk about that. So that's a big issue. We want to make sure they're saving appropriately, making sure they're participating in their 401k plans and taking advantage of matching contributions and investing accordingly. Take advantage of stocks and bonds if you're a long-term investor.
Good.
Okay.
Well, we're going to have to wrap up now.
Thank you, Peter.
This has been great.
It's been a pleasure.
Really, it has.
Really good. Do you believe that we have to wrap up now?
Yeah, it went by
fast, right? Well, thank you so much. And just to let our audience know that if you have any questions, please let us know, because we'll be happy to pass them along to Peter. And of course, if you have any other questions or ideas about future topics for shows, please let us hear from you. Because remember, this is your show. The law, your money, and you.